We've made it to chapter 6 on environmental issues. I'm Sean Kelly. Welcome to my channel on everything real estate. If my fingernails look really dirty right now, it's because, like I said a couple chapters ago, I'm going with no excuses here. I did not paint my fingernails like some high school goth child. I was actually staining some wood. If you're into the DIY or remodeling type of projects, head over to my other channel. I'm just about to breach 12,000 subscribers. So go over there and subscribe right after you subscribe to this channel. Let's get on with the chapter. Question 1. The maximum safe level of asbestos exposure as determined by the EPA is 1.0 picocuries, 2.0 pico, or 4.0 pico, or not known. So do not get this one confused with radon because it can be very confusing with these numbers here. Asbestos actually does not have a known safe level. Be very careful with this stuff. By the way, do you know what asbestos is? It's a little fiber used in old building materials that can actually get lodged onto the lining of your lungs, and it cannot come off and it does not dissolve. And the side effects don't occur for like 20 to 30 years after the fact. Anyway, the answer here is D, not known. Question 2. In order to reduce the risk of mold contamination in the home, the homeowner should control moisture and water intrusion, tightly seal cracks and openings, control the amount of sunlight the home receives, or D, eliminate the opportunity for spores to enter the home. So mold happens because of a lack of sunlight and where moisture is at. The answer here is A, you control the moisture. So C would be correct if we were discussing like outside mold, which is common on roof shingles and very shaded homes. In fact, I had to power wash the side of my home like a month after moving here because the HOA got me. It was actually right after COVID too. It's like, what are these people doing? They have too much time on their hands, right? I also ended up bleaching the roof on one of my cabins, and that was mainly just for looks and aesthetic, but it does also help prevent roof damage. So question 3. That was a little too much information there, but yeah. Question 3. Radon is a colorless, odorless gas that is emitted by improperly vented appliances, volatile organic compound paints, decaying uranium deposits, or urea formaldehyde. So I love when my clients ask what radon is, and I'm like, oh, it's just decaying uranium deposits. It sounds super scientific or something crazy from a comic book. I imagine they're like, oh wow, what a super smart agent, but really they're probably like, what a nerd. The answer here is C, decaying uranium deposits. Question 4. The predominant health risk of asbestos exposure is to the, kind of cover this, central nervous system, the lungs, memory, or the brain. So like I said, I kind of answered this in question 1. Asbestos causes damage to your lungs, right? Those are the fibers that lodge onto the lining of your lungs. So if you end up removing popcorn ceiling on a house that's made before like 1980, use a P100 mask and take precautions, or really what you want to do is hire it out professionally, especially if you do test it and you have asbestos in your ceilings. So question 4 is, the answer is B, lungs. Question 5. The type of asbestos that can become airborne particles when you come into physical contact with it is referred to as friable, non-friable, encapsulated, or organic. So this is pure definition stuff here, like most of this chapter. Friable is when the asbestos can become airborne. So encapsulated means it's closed or sealed up. So think of a capsule, right? It's enclosed. Something can be encapsulated like asbestos if you paint over it. So then organic doesn't really make sense here. That's not something you really hear. Answer is A, friable. By the way, this is me removing some asbestos ceiling from a cabin in Beach Mountain. See me again in 20 or 30 years. So according to the question 6, according to the Federal Lead-Based Paint Hazard and Reduction Act, which of the following is not true? All pre-1978 housing must be tested for lead-based paint. All purchasers of pre-1978 housing must be given 10 days to test for lead-based paint. The buyers and sellers of pre-1978 housing may agree to waive the number of days to test for lead-based paint. Or both purchasers and tenants of pre-1978 housing must be given a copy of the EPA pamphlet, quote, Protect Your Family from lead in the home. That's not a quote, that's actually a title. So lead-based paint does not need to be tested at all, right? But a buyer should be aware that the lead may or may not be there. So it's up to the buyer to get it tested and repaired. But there should be pamphlets given if it's a house pre-1978. Answer here is A. All 1978 and prior housing must be tested for lead-based paint. That's false. Question 7. Which of the following is most likely to occur through prolonged mold exposure? Central nervous system damage, migraine headaches, asthma and other respiratory issues, or liver and kidney disease. So all the problems we're really talking about in this entire chapter, really when it comes to building materials in general, all have to do, for the most part, with your lungs. So if there's ever an answer like that and you don't know, go with lungs because it's most likely that. The asbestos, lungs. Radon, lungs. It's a second leading cause of lung cancer behind cigarettes. Mold deals with lungs and respiratory issues. So our lungs are weak, people, except for mine. Question 8. The EPA blank the maximum acceptable level of radon gas in the home. Has established as 1.0, has established as 2.0, has established as 4.0, or has not established. So the maximum acceptable level is 4.0 for radon gas. Answer here is C. If it's above that, then there are ways to reduce the level in the home by ventilating the crawl space or putting like a cavity under the slab. There's other little things that can make this all better. Answer here though is C. Question 9. Which of the following represents the best placement for the radon testing mechanism in order to achieve the most accurate results? On the deck or patio, on the lowest living floor, on the second living floor, or in the attic. Remember, radon is decaying uranium, which is underground. So think logically here. Where would the radon test need to be so it's close to the source? On the lowest floor. So B is the answer there. Now, the fact that agents even really need to know this is crazy because that's the inspector's job, but it's on the lowest living floor. Question 10. The primary source of formaldehyde is from lead-based paint, radon gas, asbestos, or foam insulation. So formaldehyde is used in many building materials, but usually at super low levels. So of the answers here, it's in the foam insulation. Plywood is pretty common too for that. But again, this causes issues with the nose and wheezing, but can also cause rashes. So even formaldehyde kind of gets you in the lungs and throat and nose and stuff. Answer here is D. That was a super quick 10 questions right there. Most of this chapter was made up of vocabulary. Definitely know the encapsulation, friable, and the 4.0 radiation level, especially. Chapter 7 is extremely important, and it's up next, and it's on brokerage relationships. There's actually not very many questions on it compared to some of these other chapters, but you really need to make sure you read that one and study up on it. Thanks, and hit the like button down below for me, please. And I must mention, definitely check out my how to choose a brokerage video, because if you're taking these chapter question practice things, you're most likely going to be looking for a firm pretty soon. And if you end up joining Keller Williams like I did, I would really appreciate if you put me down as a sponsor. It's actually a really big deal for a business. I'll see you on the next video.